Okay, I hope everybody can hear me wherever you are seated in the world. Welcome all to the BSG annual meeting 2020. My name is Stephen Tooth. I'm chair of the BSG for 2019 to 20. Now, 12 months ago, when I took over as chair, never did I imagine that I'd be in this situation, sitting in my spare bedroom, now converted to an office, talking to you through the medium of an iPad to welcome you to such a meeting. Rather, I imagined I would be ensconced in a lecture theatre somewhere at Northumbria University, while Matt Westerby welcomed us to the 2020 meeting in his capacity as the main local organiser. But a lot has changed since, and we find ourselves in new territory. So back in April, as the full extent of the disruptions and restrictions imposed by the coronavirus pandemic became clear, we took the decision to postpone the planned physical annual meeting at Northumbria and instead explore the possibilities of holding a stripped-down virtual meeting, as well as scheduling the 2020 annual general meeting using an online format. We did not take this decision lightly, of course, but as the pandemic took hold, it was clear that this was the only sensible course of action that we could take. So today, we have the event dubbed the Medal Winners Webinar. Tomorrow, the 2020 annual general meeting will take place, Wednesday, 9th of September, starting 2 p.m, and we encourage all BSG members to attend that AGM. TC Hales, the Honorary Secretary of the Society, has sent out invites previously, and I believe an invite went out again last night with the appropriate links. All being well, the next physical meeting will now take place at Northumbria University in September 2021, but we will keep a watching brief on that one. At the outset of today, I should give thanks to Chris Skinner, Vice Chair of the Outreach and Education Subcommittee, for taking the lead role in organising today's event. Chris has been the lead role in organising the programme, deciding on the technical formats and in producing materials, but is unable to be with us for all of today, so I should extend a great deal of thanks to Josh Ahmed, perhaps better known to some of you as Geomorphic Josh. Thanks to Josh Ahmed for stepping in to act as our technical host for the day. So this morning is dedicated to an opening address from me, followed by an overview of the BSG Executive Committee and its various subcommittees, and also talk from Stuart Lane, editor of the Society's journal, Earth Surface Processes and Landforms. The afternoon will celebrate the 2020 medal winners and provide them with the opportunity to share their award-winning research, as well as a chance for you as members to ask them questions in real time. In order of this afternoon's presentations, these are Catriona Thompson, who receives the Mike Kirkby Award for the best paper published in Earth Surface Processes and Landforms in 2019. Duna Rhoda Baluda, Dick Chorley Award for the best published paper based on PhD research. Aaron Wild, who receives the Marjorie Sweeting Award for the best undergraduate geomorphological dissertation undertaken at a UK university. Joe Wheaton, Gordon Warwick Award for his excellence in research on eco-geomorphology, fluvial science and river management. And Ellen Wall, who receives the David Linton Award for her outstanding contribution over a sustained period of time to fluvial research, mentoring and the promotion of the discipline of geomorphology. At the start of each talk, we will hear a short summary of the longer award citations for these people, but collectively, I'm sure that we can all give our warmest congratulations on their achievements. Now, good geomorphological research is, of course, supported by good peer review prior to publication, and the Earth Surface Processes and Landforms editorial team have instituted an annual award to recognise this facet of community service, which they have called the Fiona Kirkby Award. Citing the words of Stuart Lane, the journal's editor, he says, "We are very pleased to announce the recipients of the Fiona Kirkby Award 2020. These awards are made upon recommendation by the Earth Surface Processes and Landforms Board as a tribute to Fiona Kirkby, who was the assistant editor of the journal from 1978 to 2019. They recognise outstanding contribution to the journal by reviewers. ESPL is, of course, very fortunate to have an extremely large number of excellent reviewers, but occasionally we see reviewers who go the extra kilometre in supporting our authors in publishing the very best geomorphological research. This year, we are delighted to recognise 5 such reviewers who are Peter Bakopoulos from Florida Department of Environmental Protection in the USA, Catherine Clark, Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute in Panama, Hironori Matsumoto, University of Auckland, New Zealand, Caroline Nash, Oregon State University, USA, and Katie Whitbread, British Geological Survey, UK. And again, our warmest congratulations to all of these people for their achievement. Before we get further into the meeting, in the rest of this address, I want to indulge in a little bit of retrospection, perspection, and prospection on the BSG and its contribution to geomorphology. In the chaos of this year, it almost seems to have gone unnoticed that 2020 is generally regarded as the 60th anniversary of the establishment of what became the British Geomorphological Research Group, BGRG, the forerunner of today's British Society for Geomorphology, BSG. Key anniversaries such as this always provide opportunities to take stock of past achievements, assess present trajectories, and plan for future developments. And we can certainly celebrate past achievements, including by reflecting on the contributions made by society members and previous award winners, some of whom have passed away in recent months. Following on from the loss of influential British geomorphologists in recent years, such as Eric Brown and Jeff Petts, we are sad to report the passing of several other influential individuals within the past year, including Colleen King, one of only 2 women in the founding group of academics that became the BGRG in the early 1960s, and she was also a former David Linton Award winner in 1991. Will Graff, a US geomorphologist with particular interest in river processes management and policy, and another former David Linton Award winner in 2000, and Tony Orme, another of the founding group of academics that became the BGRG, a former Frost lecturer in 2000, and one of the initial suite of BSG fellows in 2015. The latest edition of the BSG newsletter contains short pieces on the contributions made by these individuals, with links to longer obituaries or tributes provided by colleagues who worked closely with them. We extend our condolences to their families and colleagues. So we can recognise, celebrate, and maintain the good work started by the BGRG and BSG's pioneers, while continuing to adjust society activities and develop new ways of working to fit the present. From the society's perspectives, what will be the key challenges in a post-COVID-19 world, or, as seems possible, perhaps increasingly likely, in a world with the disease still omnipresent, at least in the near future? In our foreword for the latest BSG newsletter, the President, Heather Viles, and I outlined 3 key challenges, which I'll talk about just over the next few minutes. The first of these challenges is, how can the society best help geomorphology to demonstrate, perhaps even enhance, its relevance and visibility in a world where there is likely to be increased pressure on the funding and direction of academic research, consultancy, and educational and outreach activities? With the effects of global environmental change increasingly being felt worldwide, floods, droughts, wildfires, sea level rise, river and coastal erosion, landslides, to name just a few changes to the Earth's surface that seem to be taking place with greater frequency and intensity, there is no shortage of opportunities for geomorphologists to be showing how our skills and knowledge can help diagnose the challenges and offer insights that may contribute to the solutions. Many of you may know about the recent train derailment near Stonehaven in Scotland that resulted from unusually intense summer rainfall, associated flooding and a landslip, and sadly involved the loss of some lives. This is geomorphology in the news. But how commonly is geomorphology, and how commonly are geomorphologists mentioned in news reports on such landscape changes, or in the aftermath of disasters when searching for answers and solutions? The unfortunate answer is very rarely. Now, while better media liaison is one potential solution, are we also helping ourselves by making the most of the visual nature of geomorphology, using new technologies and new means of communication? I'm thinking here of sci-art visualizations using LiDAR imagery from people like Daniel Coe, or new animation techniques from people like Robert Hodgin. Are we using these approaches and techniques to promote geomorphology and geomorphologists, and thus be in the best position to influence the direction of research, policy, and education? The second challenge, how can the society start to reduce or even justify where necessary the carbon and wider environmental footprints of its events? Committee and subcommittee meetings, our annual meeting, as well as activities supported by the society, grant-funded research, conference sessions, and so on. Now, geomorphology and geomorphologists have a key role to play in addressing the climate change challenge, either alongside or in combination with the perspectives provided by other academic and practical disciplines. At the same time, we recognise that some of our activities as geomorphologists create environmental impacts and greenhouse gas emissions that contribute to the climate change challenge, particularly flying for field work, for collaboration, or for meetings. So how do we resolve these competing tensions? The third challenge, how can the society begin to address the issues raised by the Black Lives Matter movement as part of a wider consideration of equality, diversity, and inclusion, EDI for short, both within the society and within the geomorphological discipline more generally? As a starting point, we can ask three questions. Why does EDI matter for geomorphology? Secondly, what are the barriers to greater EDI in geomorphology? And thirdly, how can we address those EDI barriers? Now, there is, of course, much that can be said on these matters, and the President, Heather Viles, and I have drafted something from our perspectives that hopefully will get wider distribution soon. But the take-home message is that we feel that addressing EDI is essential for ensuring a resilient geomorphology, which we define as a discipline that is seen to be adapting to changing circumstances so that it remains relevant, vibrant, and accessible to as wide a cross-section of society as possible. Our feeling is that not addressing EDI will incur reputational risk for groups and organisations like the BSG and ensure that the many potential benefits of the discipline for science and society remain essentially invisible or at best underutilised. Now, on all these matters, the BSG Executive Committee and its various subcommittees have not been idle, and behind the scenes we've been working on various initiatives to address these different challenges. We will hear more about the work of the various subcommittees shortly, and I'll also say more about some of the activities being undertaken in my chair's report at tomorrow's AGM. But in brief, we have instituted a reinvestment fund to plough some of our budgetary surplus into our charitable objectives, including visualization work to demonstrate the relevance of geomorphology. We're developing new web materials in association with the Professional Geomorphology Subcommittee, and we're boosting the amount of money available for different research grant schemes. We've also established a carbon working group to examine where and how we can reduce, or indeed justify where necessary, the carbon and wider environmental footprint of activities undertaken by the society. As one example, our virtual meetings like this, a chance to reduce the carbon and environmental footprint of academic travel, while still maintaining some of the elements of networking that is an essential part of professional development and communication. And we've also started discussing diversity issues in geomorphology. Indeed, how can we use new technologies and virtual meetings like this to reach different audiences, thereby increasing diversity and representation from underrepresented sections of society, and as a consequence, better promoting geomorphology and training the next generation of geomorphologists. As you will well be aware, this is the first time that the BSG will have held a meeting in virtual form. And although this year the decision has been forced upon us by the pandemic, there are also many advantages in terms of reducing the carbon and wider environmental footprint of the meeting, increasing participation at the meeting, and archiving key presentations and discussions for reuse. Although we intend to preserve a physical annual meeting in future years, no doubt we shall learn from the lessons this year and incorporate some opportunities for online participation in future meetings. So all of this leads on to a contemplation of the future, which is where I shall finish shortly. Where do we want geomorphology and the society to go? What do we want the scope and contributions of our geomorphology to entail? And what do we want our society to look like in 5, 10, 20, or another 60 years' time? These are debates we can start today or at the next convenient opportunity. As I'm sure many of us do already, let's all act as ambassadors for geomorphology and geomorphologists. Let's all use, and where necessary explain, the term geomorphology, geomorphologists, and variants alongside our other disciplinary affiliations that may be better known. We all wear several hats: geographer, earth scientist, geoscientist, environmental educator, and so on. But let's at least get geomorphology in there alongside these better known titles. But above all, and this is where I shall finish, above all, we want people to keep doing good geomorphology. We need geomorphologists of all career stages to be doing exciting, rigorous, innovative science. In fact, the sort of good geomorphology exemplified by the 2020 BSG award winners, from whom we shall hear more later today. Now, I have had the privilege of having sneak previews of the talks. I can tell you they touch on some of the issues mentioned above. For instance, using new visualizations to communicate geomorphology, demonstrating the relevance of geomorphology, reaching different audiences, and so on. So I'm sure they can help continue the conversations that we can have amongst ourselves this morning. So I shall end there. I thank you for your time. Congratulate you all for acting as trailblazers. Again, after all, this is the first time in the BGRG's or BSG's 60-year history that we have held such a virtual meeting. And through your contributions, I'm sure we can learn lots of lessons here and carry those lessons forward for the future into the next phase of the society's development.